I welcome you to my channel. Subscribe and listen to my new stories every day. I had always prided myself on being a supportive husband. When Marla announced her dream to become an international chef, I was the first to encourage her, cheering as she whisked and sautéed her way through cuisines from every corner of the globe. Our kitchen, once a mundane room, had transformed into a vibrant canvas of aromas and flavors. Yet, with every new dish she mastered, a growing unease simmered within me, like a stock pot left forgotten on a low flame. It was a Thursday evening when the seeds of doubt were sown. Marla was particularly excited as she chattered about a new friend she had made at the Culinary Institute, someone who specialized in Southeast Asian cuisine. "He's taught me so much already, you wouldn't believe it," she gushed, her eyes sparkling with a fervor that was once reserved for our late-night conversations. The following morning, I found remnants of her latest culinary exploration on the dining table. Noodles, thin, delicate strands that she had never prepared before. The dish was cold, but the lingering spice in the air wasn't just from the Szechuan peppers. It was the hint of secrecy, the aroma of a lie yet uncovered. Doubts clawed at me all day. The noodles gnawed at my thoughts, entangling them with suspicion. I decided to come home early, unannounced. The sun was just beginning to set as I turned my key in the lock, the evening casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. The house was unusually silent as I stepped in, the kind of silence that screams. My heart pounded in my ears, louder with each step towards the kitchen. The closer I got, the clearer the sounds became. Moans. They were soft but unmistakable, and they didn't sound like any culinary delight. I paused at the kitchen doorway, my breath catching in my throat. The scene before me was surreal, like a grotesque tableau vivant. Flour dusted every surface, covering the sin in a ghostly pallor. And there, in the midst of the chaos, was Marla. Naked, her skin smeared with white powder, laughing up at a man who was equally bare except for a chef's hat perched jauntily on his head. The moans I had heard were not from pleasure but from laughter, the kind that knifes through the heart of the betrayed. Marla turned, her eyes widening in shock as they met mine. The laughter died on her lips, but it echoed, mocking, in the hollows of my shattered heart. "Mark, she started, but words failed her as they had failed me. The betrayal was as bitter as it was unexpected. As they scrambled to cover themselves, I felt something harden within me, a resolve as cold and unyielding as the ceramic floor tiles. I didn't say a word, the silence spoke volumes. I turned on my heel and walked out, the image of her betrayal seared into my memory. Divorce was not just an option, it was the only course left to me. I would reclaim my life, but not before ensuring Marla understood the depth of her treachery. As the door slammed shut behind me, the plot for my revenge began to simmer, a dish best served cold. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, a mirror to the turmoil in my heart. As I sat in the dim light of dawn, my mind raced with the possibilities of revenge. It needed to be precise, a reflection of the betrayal that had scorched my life. I wasn't just going to walk away, I was going to make sure Marla realized the gravity of her actions. After a few hours, a plan began to take shape, inspired by her own world, culinary arts. I would hit her where it hurt most, her burgeoning career. But first, I needed an ally, someone on the inside. I thought of Jenna, Marla's closest colleague at the Institute and, importantly, a friend who had been sidelined by Marla's newfound friendship. I reached out to Jenna under the pretense of discussing an upcoming surprise party for Marla, a ruse to gauge her loyalty and possibly recruit her to my cause. We agreed to meet at a local cafe, a neutral ground away from the prying eyes of anyone who might report back to Marla. "Jenna, thanks for meeting me," I started, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "Of course, Mark. But I have to admit, I'm surprised. You and Marla planning something big?" Jenna's eyes were cautious, searching. I took a deep breath. "Actually, it's the opposite. Marla isn't who we thought she was." The words felt like acid on my tongue, but they needed to be said. Jenna's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. What do you mean? Is everything okay? It's far from okay, I confessed, my voice dropping to a whisper. I came home early yesterday, and I found her with someone else. The shock on Jenna's face was palpable. After a moment, she reached across the table, her hand a small comfort. Mark, I'm so sorry. But why tell me this? Because I know you've seen the changes in her, Jenna. And I need help. I want to expose her for who she really is, not just to hurt her, but to show everyone the truth. Jenna hesitated, her loyalty to Marla warring with her sense of justice. Finally, she nodded, her decision made. I'll help you, Mark. What do you need? Emboldened, I outlined my plan. We would use the upcoming regional culinary competition to expose her duplicity. Jenna would ensure Marla chose a specific dish for the competition, a dish that I knew Marla had never mastered, one that required a technique she had always struggled with. Meanwhile, I would work behind the scenes, gathering evidence of her affair and her lies. Are you sure about this? Jenna asked, her tone tinged with worry. Yes, I replied, my resolve hardening. It's the only way. As we parted ways, the weight of our conspiracy hung heavy between us, but there was no turning back now. The stage was set, the players aligned, and the drama of retribution was ready to unfold. The competition would be more than a contest of culinary skills, it would be the arena where Marla's facade would crumble, piece by piece. The day of the culinary competition arrived, charged with the electric hum of anticipation. The venue buzzed with the clatter and clamor of chefs and their teams preparing for the culinary battle ahead. Amid the chaos, I found my place in the shadows, my role as spectator masking the turbulent revenge that brewed beneath the surface. Jenna had done her part flawlessly. Marla, confident and unsuspecting, had chosen the dish that would prove her undoing, a complex French dessert known for its precise and unforgiving technique, the croquembouche. It was a bold choice, one that required skill and a delicate hand, especially under the watchful eyes of discerning judges and an audience hungry for gastronomic artistry. As Marla prepped her station, I circulated through the crowd, my recorder discreetly capturing snippets of conversation from her colleagues and competitors. Their voices, layered with both admiration and envy, provided the perfect backdrop for what was to unfold. Marla seems unusually confident today, doesn't she? One whispered, a note of suspicion threading through her tone. Yes, but a croquembouche. It's ambitious. Too ambitious, another mused, his brow furrowed as he watched Marla sift flour with mechanical precision. The competition began in earnest, and the air was ripe with the sense of simmering stocks and caramelizing sugar. Marla started strong, her movements fluid and sure. But as the hours ticked by, the initial confidence in her eyes began to wane, replaced by a dawning realization of the complexity of her task. Jenna, meanwhile, moved through the crowd, subtly undermining Marla's reputation. She's been off her game lately, hasn't she? Distracted by some new friend or another, Jenna confided to a group of eager listeners, her words casual but calculated. I watched as doubt crept into Marla's demeanor. The tower of cream-filled profiteroles she attempted to construct began to lean precariously. With each addition, her hands shook slightly, betraying her inner turmoil. Then, as if on cue, disaster struck. The tower, overambitious and poorly constructed, collapsed. Profiteroles rolled like scattered marbles across her station, a sweet ruin of what was meant to be a masterpiece. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that felt like a gust of vindictive wind. Marla's face crumpled, her composure shattered alongside her dessert. The judges approached, their expressions a mix of sympathy and professional disappointment. I don't understand. I practiced. Marla stammered, her voice breaking as she tried to explain the inexplicable. From the back of the room, I felt a surge of bitter satisfaction. The public failure was just the beginning. I approached her, my footsteps firm and deliberate. Marla, I said, my voice loud enough to cut through the murmurs of the crowd. Seems like you needed more practice, or perhaps less distraction. Her eyes met mine, and the flash of recognition was followed by horror as she understood the implication. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, their curiosity piqued by the personal drama unfolding before them. Mark, she started, her voice a mix of desperation and fear. There's nothing to say, Marla. You've made your bed, and now you must lie in it, I interrupted coldly, turning on my heel and leaving her amidst the ruins of her career and reputation. As I walked away, the weight of my actions hung heavy on my shoulders, but the taste of retribution was sweet, like the sugar that had doomed her dessert. The stage was set for the next act of my plan, and there was no turning back. The fallout from the competition was catastrophic for Marla. The whispers of her failure rippled through the culinary world, each rumor a knife that I had helped twist deeper into her career. Yet, my thirst for revenge remained unquenched, the collapse of her professional life was just the appetizer. I wanted her to feel the betrayal, to taste the bitterness that had festered in my heart since that fateful day. With Jenna's continued assistance, I began to lay the groundwork for the final act of my vendetta. Jenna, fueled by her own grievances against Marla's recent neglect, was more than willing to help orchestrate a meeting that would serve as the stage for my ultimate revenge. I've arranged for her to meet you, Jenna whispered over the phone one evening, her voice laced with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She thinks it's to discuss a possible job opportunity, a chance to redeem herself. Perfect, I replied, a cold smile playing on my lips. The irony of her seeking redemption from the very person she had wronged was delicious. We chose an old, abandoned restaurant for the meeting, a place that held memories for Marla and me, where we had celebrated her first culinary award. As I waited in the shadows of the dilapidated building, the broken windows and peeling paint mirrored the decay of our relationship. Marla arrived, punctual as always, her steps hesitant as she entered the dimly lit space. The door creaked loudly behind her, a melancholic echo of better times. Her eyes searched the darkness until they found me. Mark? What is this? I thought we were here to talk about a job. Her voice trailed off as she took in my stony expression and the desolate surroundings. This is about a job, in a way, I said, stepping forward. It's about the job you did on our marriage, on our life together. Confusion gave way to fear as she realized the true nature of this meeting. Mark, please, we can talk about this. No more talking, Marla. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions have screamed betrayal, I interrupted, my voice as cold as the concrete underfoot. From behind a broken pillar, Jenna stepped out, her presence a shock to Marla. You're involved in this? Jenna's face was hard, unforgiving. I had my reasons, just as Mark did. You used people, Marla. Now, it's time you understand what it feels like to be discarded. Realization dawned on Marla's face, and with it, a dawning terror. What are you going to do? I pulled out a small device and pressed a button. The sound of a recording filled the room, the sound of her and her lover, their intimate laughter, the soft moans that had shattered my world. As for what I'm going to do, I said, my voice resolute, I've already done it. This recording, along with emails and photos, has been sent to every major culinary institute and food critic in the city. You're finished, Marla. Her face crumpled, the impact of my words hitting her like a physical blow. You want to destroy me completely, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You destroyed us first, I said simply. Marla turned, her body shaking with sobs, and stumbled out into the night. Jenna looked at me, her face unreadable. Is it over? She asked. It's over, I confirmed, though the hollow victory churned in my stomach. As the echo of Marla's departing footsteps faded, so too did the last remnants of what we had once been. The restaurant, once a symbol of celebration, now stood as a testament to the ruinous power of betrayal and revenge. In the end, the bitterness of vengeance was all that remained, a cold companion in the shadowy silence.